Right. So typically for the guest speaker sessions, we have the top 20%. So every week in Deep Thought, we have the UBS scoreboard, unicorn behavior scores, depending on participation in different learning and development drills. And the top 20% are given the opportunity to engage with guest speakers and thought leaders from different fields every Saturday. So these are the top 20% of Deep Thought for this week. And the typical format for our guest speaker sessions is that the speaker themselves, they, introduce themselves, talk about themselves for the first 5 minutes about the work they've done. And then the rest of the session is just a simple Q&A session where the people can ask them questions to gain more clarity.
Got it. Got it. So, great. Got that, Paridhi. Do you want me to get started?
Sure, yes, please.
So, something is not downloading for a few people. What's
Yeah,
a
is
TV
it,
link?
Wait, I'll
right.
just reshare
It's
it.
the, yeah, thank you, Anand. So TB is the thread builder link. So generally, when we have any meetings or discussions or sessions in deep thought, instead of just listening to them, we try to simultaneously document whatever we're hearing, so that we're more focused on the discussion at hand, and so that we can ask more insightful questions and actually understand where we would like more clarity.
So, you mean that's an automated tool that does that? You don't have to apply your mind. Is that what it is?
No, no, we actually have to. So it's meant to make us apply our mind even more. So while we're listening to you talk, we'll simultaneously type everything that we're hearing.
आप बहुत मेहनत करवा रहे हो बच्चों से. Okay, done, done. Great. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy that Tarun, have had me here for today. I'll. What I did was actually I just thought I'll prepare a few talking points via slides, right, and then open it up to you guys for questioning. I think that's since I prepared it, I'm going to show that, but I'll try not to spend too much time on that. And then it's basically few points that I put together, earlier today, based on what I thought will help all of us. Right? It's helped me validate my own thinking about. So the title of this program is about having or gaining a unicorn mindset, and you know i'm trying to I'm trying to build something which could become a unicorn, right? So it's not about just the product or the output, it's also the people who are going to make that happen. And therefore, more than building a unicorn company or a product that can become a multi-billion dollar product by value, I think we need the unicorn mindsets to make it happen. And I'm sure that this conversation is more about that. एंड देयरफॉर मेरा कंपनी यूनिकॉर्न तो नहीं है आज, लेकिन वो बनाने के लिए कोशिश जारी है अभी. एंड देयरफॉर आई थिंक आई कैन शेयर अ फ्यू थॉट्स ऑन व्हाट आई थिंक मे मेक इट हैपन, राइट? By looking around, by looking at reflecting on what we have done in my company for the last few years, we can keep that in the open-ended part of the discussions, right? But to give you a very brief introduction about myself, so I have about 10 years of business finance experience. I have about 15 years of risk management experience, right? That's been my domain. And where there is business, there is risk. All of us know that. So I've been in corporate for about 20 years, and the last 5 7 years, primarily having my own startup, right? And trying to develop software for risk management. So that's been my very broad background. Um, some of you who knew who or who know who I am might have looked me up on LinkedIn, so you already know who I am. So I'm not going to talk a lot about that. I think we should use every minute of today to just talk to each other, right? So feel free to start talking to me as and when you want. You don't have to even wait till the end. I don't know what the protocol is, but let me go through those few slides or a few talking points, and then let's leave the entire floor open for the rest of the day. Okay, that's what I would think will be good, because that way I would have set the context, right? And then you can keep asking your questions based on that context, right? Does that make sense? Is there any piece of intro that you want me to do now, or you're okay for me to just get started?
Oh, yeah, that sounds good. We can get started.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So I'm just gonna share my screen, and then I'll share these slides with you later on. Okay, so that it's available for you. It's not too many also. Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, okay. Because I can't see you right now. I'm just able to see my screen. So um, if there is any question or doubt, feel free to just speak up and ask, right? Basically, let's do that. I'm not going to take more than 10-12 minutes because I'll just set this as a context, and then we can just open up for Q&A. Okay. So essentially, if we are talking about this topic called developing a unicorn mindset, and this is not just for people who are there on the call on the other side of this presentation, but it is also, like I said, in some way that I want to validate thoughts for myself, right, as a founder for Udbhata, right? So the question is, you see a lot of those names there. All of them you probably know. Some of them you may not know, but you know the companies they represent, right? And I've consciously put equal mix of gents and ladies out there, so that we know that it's not a male dominated achievement. Everybody can do it, right? um, and many of these people may already be our icons, right? Personally, I'm sure a lot of us relate to, hear, talk about, learn about, observe, right? A lot of what happens in these companies because of them, right? So my guess is all of these people, if not all, most of them are self-made unicorns, right? And I say unicorn because they've built unicorn companies, right? And for people who are into a lot of the social media, WhatsApp forwards, many of the forwards keep coming where you have Jeff Bezos on their earlier days, right? You have Bill Gates in their earlier days, where there is fun made of internet and stuff like that. Now imagine we were in that era, and you know we were questioned about, so what can Amazon actually do besides sell books online, right? And today you know what Amazon does, right? So what makes that happen for us? uh, what kind of a person do you need to be able to come out with what these people have come out with? I think that's the fundamental question that each of us needs to answer for ourselves. And it's the same question that also is required for myself. But it's not just the individual, right? At the end of the day, if just Elon, or just Steve, or just Jeff Bezos were given money, right, they might still not have been able to come out with all of this. So some magic has happened beyond that person. That person has been there. That person is probably a dreamer, or that person is probably a hustler, or that person is probably both, right? But something else has also happened, right, along with that. What is that? So that is where I was trying to spend some time reflecting on, why do I think I can make my company a unicorn? And therefore, what is it that I need to be doing, or I need to be having, right? I think that's the whole context here. And the next 5-7 minutes that we look at these slides, that can be a good context for you to then start a debate, right, or a discussion with me, right? So that's how we'll probably look at it, right? Um, so what I've done is, I tried to put together a set of maybe 5 or 6 bullet points to suggest what can befit, say, a unicorn, right? And for a unicorn to become a unicorn, a potential unicorn today to become a unicorn, what kind of elements needs to be there in place? It's not just the person. Like I said, if I was given a bag load of money, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to build a unicorn, right? There's a lot more that needs to happen. So I just try to put together a few thoughts, and maybe we can kind of look at them together and then use this as a context, right? The first thing is vision and innovation, right? And all of us understand this. All of us, from an English perspective, know what this means. Can anyone in the group today give me what name comes first when we say that we are thinking of a founder, or a unicorn founder or a unicorn organization today that has been able to think big, right? And the big here is still written in the same size, but I really mean big here, right? And then think outside the box and obviously innovate, right? Can someone give me a name that comes to your mind?
Probably
SpaceX.
Steve Jobs and yeah, Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Data.
Absolutely, absolutely, right. So maybe 5 years, 10 years ago, if we asked this question, everybody would have put a Steve and an Apple there, right? But today, I would say that for every 10 people being asked this question, eight of them is going to say Elon. So there's something that all of us are able to see in the way Tesla and SpaceX are doing stuff, right? Or Elon is doing with his team there, right? That makes it probably bigger in the way it is than probably what Steve did, with Apple, uh, while he was there, right? And it's not about the quality; it's just about the sheer dimension. It's just about how big that big is, right, and how bad that big is, right, in that sense. So what I've done is, I'm not trying to describe what is to be done here, but I'm just pointing this out, and I'm picking up one of the favorite quotes of each of these qualities that I think make sense for us to think about, reflect on. And Elon's quality around vision and innovation is this, right? His comment is to say that if it's important enough, do it, even if the odds are not in favor, right? So he strongly believes that there should be a planet B or a plan B for the planet, right? So that's been something that he has very, very unequivocally said, and been mentioning everywhere. And even if we believe Earth is going to continue to be here, even if we believe that Mars is not going to be habitable at all during our lifetime, still every one of us is putting, are providing our support, whether it is idolizing him, whether it is funding him, whether it is joining him, whether it is doing business with him, right? Everybody is there. So definitely that's the big that we are talking about here, right? So I think it's good to keep this in mind, if we want to do something with ourselves, for ourselves, right? So that's one. The second is teamwork and collaboration. And while this is a standard, I would say quality, or even a work ethic, or even a value that you would find in many organizations, I think the focus is on working together, right? It's not working in silos as individual contributors, which is also okay, but it's working together that, you know, helps in making the magic, right? And then it's about open communication, it's about trust, and it's about mutual support, right? So, all successful companies would probably have been successful because of teamwork and collaboration. But if there is a company that probably fits into these four bullet points, that is popular and known to us, because of the way that they enable all of this to happen through their infrastructure to their offering. Does anyone want to take a guess on what it could be? which company could create an environment where you can work ahead, you can work together very, very comfortably, work with trust, work with open communication?
Maybe Tata or Google, in fact.
Okay, not bad at all. I've not, unfortunately, I've not taken Indian examples at all. But Tata is a very good example, right? And what put together, at least by kind of cross-referencing three or four data sources, is Google, right? And I think the focus here is not on the word teamwork and collaboration, but the focus here is that if you are able to pull off teamwork and collaboration well enough, you can chase the big problems, not the small problems, right? So really big problems that you could chase becomes a lot more easier, and it is worth solving the bigger problems in life than solving smaller problems. And that's been Sergi's key point right here. And therefore, when you're coming together, you're not coming together to do your day work. You're coming together to build something or crack something or deliver something that's really big. And that's what makes it all worth it, right? Otherwise, each of us can do our daily bit from home and still make things happen. But the big things can happen only when you're together. And each of these points are very, very close to my experience. We are a very small startup. We are trying to build something big. There's a huge big vision, but it can only start happening when you're all working together, right? So you can't have some person working out of Bangalore, some person working out of Hyderabad, half of the people working from home. I'm talking about innovation, right? I'm not talking about day-to-day jobs. I'm talking about building something big or cracking something big. So the way you want to look at it, the way that you may want to reflect on this, is that you know getting together can help you crack the big issues, right? And that can be a very good thought process or background again for providing you that unicorn mindset. The third point is something that every one of us probably experiences in our personal life, right? Nothing is predictable nowadays. You're doing well today, tomorrow you fall sick. The company expects something big to happen today, and tomorrow it just changes, right? There's a pandemic, and an entire industry can get wiped out. Like the tourism or the transport or the hospitality industry, right? And during such times, resilience and adaptability becomes very, very important. It's a very, very powerful quality. There are a lot of examples where founders, in fact, every startup which is probably a unicorn or even bigger, right, today, would have had different forms of crisis at different points of its life. And the thing that keeps the company going is the resilience and adaptability of the respective players there, right? Whether it's the founder, whether it's the team, the core team, that actually made it happen. I think it's all about embracing uncertainty, adaptability, right? Making sure that this is something you're extremely comfortable with. um, if you are comfortable, then it means you're losing the ability to be resilient and adaptable, right? So there has to be a minimum, I would say, degree of discomfort that is always operating, so that it allows you to continue to innovate, continue to adapt. And that becomes a very, very important quality during critical periods of time, right? So there are a lot of companies who fit under this bill, right? But I just picked up one that I believed was current and known to us. So all of us know the drama that happened, right? OpenAI was publicly, when Sam from OpenAI was publicly asked to leave, and the entire team chose to support him, and the entire team walked out. And then in less than 48 hours, he walked in with grace, right? And Sam's life has not been easy even before. Um, at each stage, OpenAI is challenged. OpenAI is challenged because people believe that it's creating something that may not be controllable. People believe that there are going to be potential challenges of ethics, potential challenges of systems taking over, and a lot of other factors that could put the entire world at risk, right? And each time a very significant concern allegation came in place, including the ability to fund OpenAI, because OpenAI started with free, and even today, I think the basic fee that you pay, if you're a B2C or a B2B2C, if I can call it, right, is that $20 a month, right? But the cost to fund that is significantly higher. So with every $20 that someone pays, OpenAI is paying a lot more to keep that $20 service open. But still, it is continuing. Still, it holds a lot of promise. And I think Sam very clearly, from his perspective, says that if you are wanting to become a very successful entrepreneur, it's not about having that great vision or being able to lead a team. It's just about being able to be persistent enough and hang in there, right? And eventually what you want to happen will happen. I'm using my own words here, but essentially the quotes are all in the public domain, so you can pick them up. I've not kind of put in everything because it's not the key part. The key phrase here is that what makes you great, or what makes a unicorn is the ability to be persistent, not to give in, not to give up, right? So the Shraddha and the Saburi of Sai Baba, I think that needs to be in there, and the rest of it will fall in place, right? So that's one very critical quality I feel all of us need to have if you want to make it big, right? The fourth, and clearly everything shifts finally to, you can only grow big when someone is there to consume that big, right? So it's very important for each of us to be able to understand what actually is needed to be done, right? What is the problem that we are fixing, and how exactly fixing that will help. I think that's very important. And once you figure that out, then it's about delivering that value, right, to the client, that the client is very happy and to be paying for. Um, I think when it comes to customer focus, that's an area where I've been able to spend time very, very closely with my clients at my company, because we are still, we still don't have those dozens and hundreds of clients. We have fives and tens of clients, right? So every client presents a different kind of challenge. They have different expectations, and the nuances which are involved, right? The threads which are involved in making them happy. I think those needs to be understood. Many times it's not necessarily the problem that you're solving, but just being there to share the burden of the challenge that they have itself can become a very good metric, right? So it's very important for us to be able to understand that very clearly. And can someone, and I picked up a very, very popular name, a brand, right? So can someone tell me what company, according to you, right, uh, represents this value that they're able to deliver exceptional value to you? Just
Apple.
take a guess.
Meta.
You're talking about Meta, okay?
Apple.
um, any other? It's not Meta, so it's not, at least I don't I've not put Meta there. While Meta, in terms of value that you're looking at, is, it's here about focus on customer and value to customer, right? So
Is it
maybe you
Amazon?
want
Is it Amazon?
Amazon. Amazing, amazing. So just think about Prime. Just think about the product called Prime, which all of us relate to. All of us can. I'm picking up easy examples. It doesn't mean Meta is bad. It doesn't mean that other companies aren't there. But for us to just be able to understand, appreciate, and use it as a context for our discussion, right? Just think about the way Prime has evolved, right? And I think Prime is the basis on which the other models like Swiggy and Zomato and all are working, right? So they say you pay this fee and you get so much of value, and then they put up that value and actually show you what it is, right? So I just take one membership that allows me to see OTT, that allows me to get deliveries free, that gives me 2 day, 3 day advantages during this thing. It has exclusive offers. I mean, they can do so much with just this one, opportunity opened up for clients, that sometimes, when you just try and connect the dots, you see there's so much value that is delivered by them. And when they started as a company to sell books online, right? And see where they are today. And Jeff Bezos still says it's always day one here in Amazon. We know that famous quote from him, right? So that's where it is, and I think it's extremely important to um, be able to either envision or listen, right? And understand the needs and then deliver that value, exceptional value. And the last, and I'm keeping it simple for us, you could keep adding more, but I think these five pieces really will, if we are able to crack this for ourselves, we are there, right? Is continuous learning and growth. So none of us are perfect when we start. None of us know everything when we start. But the only way that we can move forward or we can succeed eventually is to make sure that we are a learning organization, or at an individual level, we kind of, nurture this culture of continuous improvement, right? And when we say open to feedback, it doesn't mean that we keep taking feedback from others. But I think if someone is able to provide us a perspective that we may not have figured out, right? Because something went wrong, or because we're missing something, or maybe it's somebody who's totally seemingly out of context, like your father or your uncle or your granddad, for example. I'm taking a personal context here, right? That you may think it's not something that is coming from, it's not relevant today, but many times you may also realize that there's a lot of wisdom, right, in what they do or what they say. And it's important to be able to harness the wisdom there. And you don't want to spend your life making all the mistakes and learning from it, right? So open to feedback can be a very powerful quality, provided it's coming from the people whom we know, right? And then we are able to basically make use of that. And one of the companies that kind of embodies this, right, is LinkedIn. And Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn, he says to this date that he believes that the mindset that LinkedIn is working with, or at least he believes it should work with, is that it should always believe that it's in a permanent state of beta, right? Which means that in, changes are going to keep coming, changes are going to keep coming regularly, and you know we need to be there, right? So with this, I'll kind of so these are my 5 points. I think it's good to use this as a context for whatever we want to talk. I didn't really create a lot of content, but I thought this was a very useful starting point. And therefore, if you're talking about developing a unicorn mindset, then at least two things come out very clearly. At least I feel that these two things really needs to be there. One is you're picking up problems that are really worth solving, right? So we say solving real problems. And the second is whatever you do, whatever solution you're offering, I think that needs to create a lasting impact. I think if you're able to crack both of this and do it at scale, then I think it's a it's a career well done. It's not just a job well done. It's a career well done, right? So that's what I had for you as a starter. I don't know how much time you spent actually already. It's about 30 minutes. Maybe we can take about 15-20 minutes and see if there are any questions that you have or want to ask from this or anything else that you have on your mind, very, very happy to answer. But I hope this context was kind of useful, right? I'm just taking this off and reconnecting back with you in person. But I hope you found this a good context to chat with.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sampath. I think it was very helpful for us. And yeah, who would like to go in with the question? We can do, I think, 3 to 4 questions.
So you
Okay.
can start with, you can always start with saying, what I saw on the screen is not something I believe, and this is what I believe. And you can counter this, and that's also a great way to start, right? Because I'm sure this is not your first session of this kind. And I'm sure that each session brings with it a new layer of information to you. कि बंदा एक वाला बंदा बोला कि ये है और दूसरा वाला बंदा ये बोल रहा है, तो अब क्या
Right,
क्या सच है क्या नहीं है, राइट?
right,
But what is important is, what do you think? And do you want to put forward your view and get that
right,
validated or challenged? I think that's a great way to start too. So feel
right,
free anyway, right? Yeah, please go ahead, Shreya.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Anand. So my question is, so suppose if I am running an organization, right, how do I translate this message of the unicorn mentality to my employees? Like it's important that the founders have that unicorn mentality, but even at a micro level, for example, at a team level, how do team leaders, translate that message to their employee, to their sorry, team members? So it can be both macro, micro, but yeah, it's about translating. That's my question.
Yeah, so the first thing is, you're not going to find everybody in your organization who agrees with your point of view. Okay. I'll share 2 or 3 of my experiences, and maybe it will give you an answer indirectly. So, Udbhata is a very small startup even today, but it has the potential to become a unicorn even in the next 5 years. And I'm just giving a number so that it's a context setting. It can become later also, right? But for it to become a unicorn in 5 years, it's not just that I have an idea in my mind and I'm kind of, sharing that with a Shreya or a Aishani or an Amruta, right? And all of you understand in your mind what it is. It's not about that. Um, there are usually two triggers. Trigger number one is, and I'm talking about unicorn, I'm talking about the mindset, right? Trigger number one is, how is value for the company growing multifold, right? If that question is asked by an outsider to the CEO of the company, the CEO is going to say something, correct? Now, what if that question is asked by the CEO to its employees? That how do you think value for Udbhata or for Deep Thought or for any other company is going to grow multifold, right? There is going to be something that is going to be provided as an answer. Now, that answer cannot be different from what the CEO believes or thinks, right? So, what I'm trying to say here is that when we start on a journey to become a unicorn, or when we start investing in ourselves to develop that mindset, that mindset, I'm sorry, we won't even need to ask those questions or explain those things, right? And that's where I'm trying to take the example of Udbhata now. That in our company we have certain employees who are worried if their paycheck doesn't come by the end of the month, and unfortunately we've been behind many times. Okay, there are employees who are worried that uh, the others outside are getting earning more than what they are earning, and they feel that they are earning less here. um, Now if I try to explain to them, that you're investing in the first few years in yourself so that you can unlock value after 5 years, they're not going to be able to understand it. They're not going to be able to get it, right? But on the other hand, I have a set of employees who are waiting to understand how they can contribute to the value levers. And when I say value levers, anything that increases revenue multifold is a value lever. Anything that adds a new asset or a intellectual property to the company. Let's say we've added a new module, we've added a new product, we've added a new market. We are adding, enriching the product, right? So that its average selling price goes up, and I'm part of that directly. And my fate or my compensation is linked to that, because we have stock options in Udbhata, for example, right? And we don't discriminate between levels. So even a person who's a year old is eligible for stock options, right? Now, a person who is going to wait there for Udbhata to grow, and that person encashes the value at the end of year 5, is overall going to earn a lot more than someone who is jumping companies and getting the 20, 30, 40% rise with each jump. And 5 years later, when they're going to compare, they're just not going to be comparable, right? So it's very difficult to explain this to all and for everyone to understand. And it may not be the best example I've taken, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. So what I do is that I constantly keep talking about this in every town hall that I do. So that's how I try to make up for it. So in month one, everyone may not get it, but by the time it's the 10th town hall, some of you get it. And by the time it's the 5th year of the company, everybody gets it. Because by then, everyone has had the experience of challenges. Everyone has the experiences of high. Everybody has had the experience that, okay, this is Udbhata today and this is where it is today, right? And they know that the fate of the company or the performance of the company is proportionate or directly linked to how much they have contributed. They're able to see that, right? So that's where slowly people start understanding what a mindset means. But the only way to make that happen, in case you're not able to do it directly, is to do it through these town halls and keep suggesting ideas or suggesting your inputs or providing your inputs to say that this is what it means if you need this to work for you, and for Udbhata to become a unicorn. So that's how I do this. I don't worry about the people who don't understand, but I just keep making my conversations or my communication sharper and sharper each time, so that everybody who may not align with me on day one get it at least by day 10 or day 12. I don't know if I helped the answer, but I think it's just to say that either you get it or you don't, right? So it's as simple as that.
Shreya, did that answer your question, or is there anything else
Yeah,
you
yeah,
would
I
like?
got it.
All right.
No, I
So,
got it. Thank you,
okay,
Mr. Anand.
great. All right. So, Mr. Anand, would you be willing to take more questions? I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, maybe another 2 or 3. We'll probably go up to 750. Thank you.
Okay. So, I had, yeah, Sagnik, go ahead.
Yeah, Sagnik, please go ahead.
Yeah, you shared a concept about feedbacks, how important are feedbacks in developing any unicorn or any company. So,
Right.
like in there can be scenarios where we can receive multiple feedbacks from multiple people,
Correct.
and they can be conflicting. How do
Correct.
we understand which feedbacks are worth incorporating and which feedbacks are not necessarily useful?
Correct. I think it's a great question. And so there are two ways to look at this. One is, in a situation where you have a construct, you believe that this is the right thing, and someone is giving you feedback to the contrary, right? You can use that input to validate your thought. Okay? Now, there is a small problem with that, and it's a problem that I have been blamed for. Someone has told me that, Anand, you only agree with people who agree with you. You don't agree with people who disagree with you, right? And while that is not true, but that is the way that I have probably demonstrated, right? For example, if someone has agreed with me, I probably invest a lot of effort and time to chat up with that person and try to move that conversation further, right? That yes, I think I'm saying I agree with you because your input and my input matches, right? Or my thought and your thought matches about that situation. There could be another situation where someone is saying something extremely contrary, and there is a fair chance that I might cut short that conversation and say yes but, you know and then my mind blocks that out. So that risk is highly there when you already have a construct of what you think is right, and then you're getting feedback. So the way to deal with a situation where you already have a construct is to make sure that you take feedback, you choose the people from whom you want to take the feedback, and make sure that you know that there is no bias or there is no lack of competence in the person who's giving you that feedback, and take time to process it. Ask for examples, because many times examples can clarify exactly what they mean, because what they say and what they mean could be different, right? But in a situation where you don't have any experience, like you and me today are talking about becoming a unicorn, and both of us aren't, right? In such a situation, I think it's very important for us to start somewhere, take baby steps rather than take huge strides. So don't make very big investments of your time, resource, money, whatever it is, right? That is important for you to, deploy or implement that feedback, right? Take those baby steps, or if you feel it sounds perfect common sense, then I think it's great, right, that you move forward. But again, don't take giant leaps, take baby steps. And then, take the plunge when you've got enough of the POC on that feedback that you've got, right? Startup is all about doing POCs and then taking the big leap once you're confident enough. So you could do the same thing in a case where you don't know anything, right? And that's
Mr.
probably the only way
Anand,
that I
can I
would take.
interrupt?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can you explain what is POC?
Proof of concept. I'm sorry. So if I'm building a product, or if I'm developing something, if let's say I want to sell a service, and in my mind I think that this is what is required to make that service saleable, right? Then I and let's say I don't know that area. Say I'm now from finance and risk management, and someone tells me, you know what, you prepare this deck, you go and meet these four people, and then it will happen, right? I don't know if it's really going to happen, right? Now in doing that, I should not end up burning a lot of my time, effort, money, and resource, right, if I don't know what it is. So I start small, right? I try to ask little more questions if required, if possible, if I understand that space, right? And then I make those little bit of investments. Maybe I just walk across to five people in my city, rather than go and travel to five cities and invest, let's say, thousands or 10,000s of rupees, and then realize that actually, that's not going to work. So you have to do enough to understand that that feedback is actually the right feedback and it will work. That, I'm using the word POC, to proof of concept, to do it. So do it in small portions till you know that that feedback is actually going to work. Then make the big switch.
All right. Okay. So I had one question. I'll keep it
Yes,
short.
Pari.
Right. So, when we started the discussion, right, we saw that Elon Musk quote where he talked about if we feel something is important, we should do it, even if the odds are not in our favor. And then, as we continued in the discussion, we talked about the importance of solving real world problems, problems that are actually
Correct.
worth solving. So,
Correct.
how do we balance those two thoughts? Like, it's important for every organization to identify its niche, but how do we make sure that our niche is not such a restricted area that doesn't actually have enough of an impact for enough people? Is that something that can be assessed only on the basis of revenue and POC about whether to, continue persisting or to actually pivot? Or is there something more to it as well?
So there is always somebody who thinks of something big for the first time, right? Then it's about doing that idea in a big way, and then it is about succeeding, right? So if you take Elon Musk's you know conversations that he's had in many ways, in many examples that he has spoken to people, today one of our biggest challenges, climate climate risk or climate change, right? And the fundamental issue is about the emissions, right? And the emissions that then either deplete the ozone layer or create climate change events, right? Now, he has already mentioned that the solution is very simple. And he says that even if I invest in solar and use maybe half or a quarter of what Texas land area is, it will take care of 100% of renewable energy for US, probably even the world, right? Uh, that's the size of the solution, and it's not an unimaginable size. But for someone to be able to say that that is possible and someone to make it happen are very different things, right? So climate change is a big topic today, but climate change was talked maybe the last 20 years. It has been being talked in small and big ways, right? Um, the planet is at risk. There is no doubt about it, right? So Elon is taking the view that we should not wait for us to fail when it becomes too late. He's taking a view, right? And then he says, "Let's plan for Planet B." Today, he doesn't even know if it's going to happen or not, the Mars thing. But he says, "I don't want to wait to find out." Now, I'm sure there are other people who would have thought about the same thing, but he's also attempting to do something about it. There would have been people who attempted to do something about it also, but he is probably beginning to make some progress, right, and some strides, and probably get some success. And he's increasingly making sense, because on the rest of the other problems are not going away still. The earth is getting hotter, climate change is still happening, and therefore uh, it seems to be in retrospect that what he's doing makes sense. If he started everything today, maybe he would have taken another 10, 15 years to come out with what he's doing where he was today, right? Because it's going to be a lot more difficult to do the same things now than what it could have been 10 years ago. So the time that you lost would have been more than 10 years, right? Now, is that a problem worth solving is your question. There are other problems to be solved. But then again, his position is there are other people solving other problems. There's nobody else solving this problem. So the first point is it, are you convinced that this is a problem that is genuinely a problem? And secondly, is it a problem that makes sense for you to solve because A, nobody else is solving, or B, because you think there is a way out for this and this is the way, because nobody else understands that way, right? So even though there may be a lot of uncertainties today about whether it really can be pulled off, but he says we've got to keep moving forward with the uncertainties and keep reducing those as we move forward. So that's the whole hypothesis of SpaceX. And he's making it meaningful and viable now for the big picture to happen. Right now it's just taking satellites up and leaving them in space. He's using this money to further his goal, right, to get to Mars. But there's going to be a lot more of uncertainty coming along the way. So I guess you can either join the problems that the world is solving and you solve it earlier and better, or you pick up a problem that you believe very strongly in that the world is not solving, and take on a harder journey of solving that. I think it's as simple as that. But the starting point is you are convinced that it is something that needs to be solved or is worth solving.
So then either have, the advantage of being the first to get started on it, or be confident enough in the solution that you're coming up with, that it can lead to better impact compared to whatever is already happening and people who are already working on it.
So let me, it's not, see, first is right,
Mm-hmm.
but better solution need not be an answer. So the
Mm-hmm.
simple way to say this is every one of us on earth who is of a certain age, say 5 saal, 10 saal ke baad, every one of us knows we are going to die one day. It's a reality, right? How many of us believe that, you know, reversing age or not dying can be a problem worth solving? Every one of us inherently believes it, right? Unless you have a very strong view that we should not continue to be there and all that. But then there are people who have this views, but not everybody is working towards it. And the way the work is happening also doesn't have to be by one organization, right? So somebody is working on bionic parts of the body. Somebody else is talking about switching the brain and the heart and becoming a new person altogether. Somebody else is talking about finding ways to stay older longer, by going down sea and using the pressure and all that stuff. So there are different ways in which people are trying to, let's assume it's a problem worth solving, that I don't want to die, right? It's really an interesting problem to look at and solve. And nobody is going to stop you from doing it. But do you know how to do it? I think that's the big question. But the people who started it at the beginning may not have known it, but they would have started doing something, and they would have got some hypothesis, they would have got some support, they would have thought, yes, it's really worth doing it, right? Because medicines anyway increase people's mortality kind of increased. Therefore, rather the what is that called, the lifespan increased. So anyway they're going to live longer, then why can't we make sure that the quality of the life also goes up? Seem to be a logical thing, just like the way today there are so many solutions for climate change and the stuff that happens, right? uh, so it's not about whether I will have the answers, or I think I have the answers. It's just that I want to get started on this journey, and I believe that it's a journey that's worth doing it. And somewhere in my mind, I definitely want to crack it before, you know, my entrepreneurial journey ends, right? So if I believe I can do that in that lifetime, then I think it's okay. So if Elon believes that Mars cannot be solved during his lifetime, he may not have picked it up, is my bet, right? Because he's not going to find another Elon under him who has the same vision and belief, right? Or he'll have to very, very, very actively start looking for one.
All right. Yeah. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Anand.
Anything else? Anything else that somebody wants to ask, or any thoughts?
I think, yeah, before we close, so we typically take a few reflections. So if, uh,
Great.
yeah, if anyone wants to go ahead with the reflection, I think we can take 2 to 3 reflections. Yeah, Dia, please go ahead.
Right. So as we were actually going through the conversation, right? So the first point or the first requirement I would say for being a unicorn, it was I think innovation, right? Or so we took an example of Elon, and we were still talking about Elon and how he's working towards something that's really important for him, or something that he believes in. But a question that popped up in my mind was like, so we talked about how if it's something important to us, it doesn't matter if we still work for it, even if it's not worthwhile for us, or it has even negative consequences. So I was just wondering just how much, like, to what extent is it okay to keep working towards what's important to us or to our vision? To what extent it is okay?
Yeah, I think the The first bullet point was vision and innovation, not just innovation. Okay. And the point that Elon Musk said was not about how negative it is, but the odds of succeeding are extremely low. That was his point, right? If it's worth doing something, and even if the odds of succeeding are extremely low, still do it, is what his comment is. What this means is that the chance of failure is almost certain, but still I would want to do it. It's like saying, even if there is a 1% chance of saving, say, my father's life or my grandfather's life, I would want to the doctor and the hospital to do whatever is needed, right? So that's the same thought process. I'm using a very, I'm using an easy example, but the example is a lot more complex. The idea here is to say that, living on Mars is not possible. That's a headline statement. And no person in a sane sense or logical sense will actually say it is possible. Therefore, the odds of that happening are not there today, right? Are extremely against us, and that is what was meant there. But what is mentioned there is, if you are very supremely sure about it, right, that it is something that is worth doing, then you go ahead and do it, right? And he can't do it alone in any case. We still have the rest of the things to do. But the point here is that that becomes your very starting point on the why, or the, why not, right? In that sense,
All
it's
right.
only the odds. It's not about negative or positive. Anything negative anyway you would not want to do.
Right. Thank you, Dia. Yeah, Raghuveer, please go ahead with your reflection.
Yeah, so as we all got to know what are the aspects that Mr. Anand, you think that what exactly is needed to, have a unicorn mindset. I I have gotten all the pointers that you have presented, but the thing is that I somehow don't feel like I'm having any doubts about it. The thing is, my mindset is what I've taken this away. I've taken this from this session is that when I want to, if I want to make a particular innovation, I have a vision on the basis of that. If I want to take up that and create a particular technology for that, so it's like I will take up the challenge, whatever it may come. So it's all about persistence that I have taken from this. Just be persistent and be aware, be self-aware, and be aware of the feedbacks that we are getting it from. So that's my take.
Yeah. So when you say I'm assuming you mean organization, because if it is Raghuveer
Definitely,
or Anand, our vision need not be accurate on day one. Our vision need
definitely.
not be the vision, right? So when I started Udbhata, I had a view about what I could do. 4 years later, what I can do has grown multifold. I would have never been able to say I can become a unicorn on day one. But today I see a way by which I can become a unicorn, or the company can become a unicorn, to be more precise, right? And I also know that just Anand here cannot make it happen. So I also understand that. And some of the pointers there are a reflection of those, right? And therefore, it's not about feeling good about what you think is your vision today and then making that happen. It's also about making sure that that vision that you have, or that you believe you want to pursue, is something that has been that is coming from uh, knowledge and competence, and it's not coming from ignorance, right? It has to come from, I'm using confidence as a surrogate for knowledge, but ideally knowledge or confidence and competence, right? Because everybody can, create, whatever, like they said, no, if horses were wishes, then whatever, pigs could fly or something like that, right? Or this thing. So the point here is that it's also about the ability to envision it from an execution perspective that makes that vision very powerful. It's not just the I wish, or it is my vision that this is what it is. I am also able to see it happen in some way that I'm not able to in detail put today. But I know that, there are these maybe 10 or 12 milestones, and then I know my vision becomes reality. At least to that extent, I should be able to articulate. and that vision really needs to be something that you are at least proud of, right? So for that to happen, it may not happen on day one. Like today's conversation, you may want to articulate some vision based on what you know today, right? But let's say another year or two of your experience, and if you have to re-articulate a similar vision in a similar space, it could actually be much larger, right? And perhaps a lot more sharper, if I have to use that word, right? So I think there is also some amount of time that you can give, and which is why it's good to team up with people and jointly co-create a vision. All startup founders, all startups who become unicorns, I believe there's some number, I'm not able to recollect what it is, probably 60 or 70 or 80% of the startups who become unicorns are where there are two founders or more, not single founder. So एक बंदे का vision by itself may not be enough, right? I don't know that number, but it's something that got published very recently. So you need to have co-create a vision and not just have your vision that you want to execute. And that's even mine, right? I can't, just because I'm the CEO, it doesn't mean that my vision is what needs to be executed. We need to co-create it together, and then we know it's going to happen.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Anand. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Anand. Thank you, Raghuveer. Ishani, please go ahead with your reflection.
Hello, sir. Firstly, thank you so much for your insights, and the PPT was beautifully made. And today you highlighted some things that were really important. Let me start with the quote, if it's important enough, do it. I think that's something I really needed to hear, and it was quite motivating. One really important thing that you brought up is climate change and pollution, sustainability, carbon emissions, all of that. And these are issues that I am really that are really prevalent in this world. And there are a lot of organizations that there are a lot of big companies that could totally take the more sustainable route, that could make their businesses more uh, eco-friendly, but they choose not to. They have the resources to do that, they have all the money, everything, but they choose not to do that, all for profits. So as we close the session, I just want to ask one question: can profits and sustainable development go hand in hand?
See, at the end of the day, uh, it's not the it's not the company that is making money because of decisions of their teams, okay, their customers. So let's say I walk into a supermarket today, and you have whatever dal at 180 rupees a kilo, right? Tur dal or whatever. And I walk in the next aisle, I have organic tur dal, which is at 300 bucks. And I have something else which is probably even more sustainably sourced, that is at 500 bucks. Now if you're going to go and pick up the 180 rupees tur dal, how can the company make profit? It can't make a profit, right? So the whole world is run by demand. And if I am going to demand low cost resources, I mean, low cost produce, low cost outputs, low cost services, the ability for organizations to deliver that uh, at scale is not possible, right? So EV cars were launched by Mahindra, or there was one company that Mahindra acquired. I don't remember, that Eon or something. I don't recollect what it is now. I remember seeing that EV car 15 years back, but that EV car was simply unsustainable. While cars were available at 2 lakhs and 3 lakhs, that EV car was selling at 8 lakhs or 9 lakhs. Chota wala, dabba type ka car, right? But today, see how many comets are there on the road. That car is being sold at 5 lakhs, and the pitch is to say that तुम्हारा मतलब running cost is 2 rupees per kilometer, because petrol is no longer 2 rupees a kilometer. But 10-15 years back, it was less than 2 rupees a kilometer, right? So because customers are able to pay, or because companies are enabled to charge lower, sustainability is being made possible. So I would say 50% of the blame is customers, okay, or demand. Let me not say people, right? It's demand at the end of the day if you have to look at from the company side. And 50% of the game is the choices companies make. But at the end of the day, both of them have to do their bit to make it happen. So that's how I would put it. Companies don't do this out of choice. Sometimes they could do it out of ignorance, and sometimes they could continue to do it out of inability, or they believe that when it's the right time, we will make the shift. Maybe it's still not the right time, right? So there are a lot of pressures that kind of make companies do what they do, right? So let's say you're invested in a company share, and the share price of the company is falling down. So, okay, I think they were waiting for me to move. So basically, you're not going to be happy as a shareholder because the company invested in something sustainable and it increased its cost and therefore its profit came down, right? You're not going to pardon the company. But it is possible that you could do it if you were an investor who were asked to invest in sustainable companies that in the short run may not be profitable, but in the long run they are still okay to do it, right? So again, it's now not demand from the customers, it's now demand from the investors, right? That is deciding the fate of the company. So every organization, every business has such stakeholders, right? And each of these stakeholders then probably put their bit to do their bit to make sure the companies offer what or provide what they want. That is the thing. Hey guys, I have to stop now. Actually use somebody else's place, but I'm very happy that some of these questions came and I was able to address them. Feel free to connect with me offline if something else was missing. But Paridhi, over to you. Thank you again.
Sure.
I hope
Thank you
I
so much.
addressed your question, Ashani.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Anand, and we'll be closing the session now. Thank you, everyone.